sensing a storm is coming. They're calling me out to play. Got a feeling I'm gonna win, and they think that I don't have game. I know before I've had a few falls, I've got dirt all on my face. Baby, today I'm gonna win, and you're gonna remember my name. You're gonna remember my name. You're gonna remember my name. I've got a feeling you're gonna remember my name.
This evening, my name is Ken Hamilton, Superintendent of Schools, and tonight we're going to be presenting to you our fiscal plan for the 2016-2017 year. This is our fiscal plan for academic excellence, and joining me this evening will be Mr. Ken Silver, who is our Assistant Superintendent for Business. Our Board of Trustees includes those names that are listed here on the slide, and then of course there is a Budget Committee, which is made up of representatives from the board as well as a community member, Mr. Rick Powers. The Budget Committee consists of Mr. Omar McDowell, who serves as the committee chair, Darcy Miller, Dr. Ning, and Rick Powers. Our fiscal plan for academic excellence is centered around the board's mission and vision statements. And we are using a process, a zero-based budgeting process, where we start from zero rather than just carry over those items from the previous, or in this case, the current year, into the next year. So zero-based requires that we remove everything out of the budget and start from scratch and ask our principals and directors and supervisors to justify what they are asking for in their budget based on a couple of things. One being the most important, student enrollment. The second priority being supplies and materials necessary to implement programs and services. And thirdly, total alignment with the board goals. And those goals this is accomplished through a process that we call OEE, or Orchestrating Effective Effort. But the vision statement is the Mount Vernon City School District will be recognized as a high-quality educational system where all students receive a rigorous education, prepared to be college and career ready, and develop the necessary skills to compete in a global society. The Board of Education goals, and as we go through the budget, you'll see an alignment between everything that's in the budget to one or more of the board goals. The first is creating a system to promote student achievement and increase outcomes, paying particular attention to subgroups in order to close the achievement gaps. Goal number 2 is to develop and implement a multi-year plan for improving our buildings, grounds, and facilities, including the exploration of private and public partnerships. Our third goal is to spearhead the rebranding of the district, and these goals are goals that have been carried over from the previous year, but to spearhead a rebranding of the district and improve public relations in an effort to restore community confidence in the Mount Vernon City School District, including the inclusion of the FACE, or the Family and Community Engagement Initiative. Goal number 4 is to create a 21st century environment of learning that embraces technology, promotes technology, inspiration, motivation, exploration, and innovation. And the last of the 5 board goals is to develop a plan for the implementation of a dynamic School of Excellence and a dynamic liberal arts program. And this is also related to the 2020 vision, the bond that was recently supported by the community, and you will see how this budget supports the implementation of that vision. So the executive summary for this presentation is as follows. The school budget has been carefully developed to ensure alignment with the goals, which I mentioned, along with the 2020 vision. The 2016-2017 budget presents a spending plan that grows programs, retains staff, and ensures a focus on student achievement, while at the same time maintaining the same tax levy for the 3rd consecutive year. And this is something we're very proud of because we've been able to add programs and services and do so without asking the taxpayers to ante up any additional funding. The plan is consistent with everything that has been presented during the bond presentations, and it includes all contractual obligations, an increase in health benefit costs, support of the K-8 configuration plan, improving professional development, creating systems for increased accountability and efficiency, and raising expectations for all staff and students. So the fiscal plan is focused on several priorities. They include, of course, the infusion of the 2020 vision, increasing teacher productivity, student outcomes or student achievement, quality educational programs, and there are 3 major areas that are focused on as it relates to these programs. That centers around early interventions, K-8 programming, and the high school reconfiguration and specialization, fulfilling and supporting the 2020 vision, being fiscally responsible, capital improvement projects. Not everything that is included in the bond, for example, there are some projects that are in our general operating budget that are above and beyond what's included in the bond that was recently approved, professional development, and staffing for critical positions. So as we reflect over what we've been able to accomplish, again, we're presenting another 0% year-to-year tax increase, which is unprecedented. We're increasing programs and opportunities for students, maintaining the programs that we restored last year. One of the things that we heard last year when we started restoring programs, well, how will you maintain them in the years to come? And we made a commitment to continue to be fiscally responsible so that we're not adding programs one year and having to remove them the next. Special education compliance, which is a huge issue for our district, which goes back to 2006. Expanding our performing arts program, our gifted and talented program. We have a comprehensive RTI, which is response to intervention. This is a program that helps us identify any learning difficulties youngsters may have, and in so doing, providing the support services necessary to remediate those deficits and get children on the right track as soon as possible. Demonstration to our community that we are effective stewards of public funds, restoring public confidence, and we believe that is indicative of the successful passage of the 2020 bond, and community relations associated with our efforts to make sure that our community is getting information in a timely and efficient fashion. So are the dollars working? What are our targets? What are our benchmarks in literacy and mathematics? So this data has already been presented, but for the purpose of us looking and being reflective in terms of how we have made some progress, this chart shows the percentage of students from last year who have either reached or exceeded grade level in the area of literacy. And this is from grades 2 through 8. Our math targets, this chart is not very clear, but I will share with you, and this is available online as well. Our math targets focus on the goals that are identified by our subgroups: African American, Hispanic, students with disabilities, English language learners, and those youngsters that are identified as economically disadvantaged. Keep in mind, however, that as we go through these targets, some youngsters are represented in one or more of these subgroups. We've been working very carefully on paying particular attention to our graduation rates, and we see that we are making some progress in that regard from one year to the next. There is more work to be done, particularly at Mandela, which is one of our alternative schools, the alternative school. But in our other schools, we are seeing some significant progress in terms of those youngsters who are completing their high school experience in Mount Vernon. Some of our district fiscal efficiencies that we've been able to identify include debt refinancing, the use of restricted revenues to offset many of our major increases, renegotiating and rebidding contracts with some of our vendors, use of long-range plans for facility improvements and energy conservation, collaborative agreements with our bargaining units, increasing shared services, competitive bid pricing, the bid process, and cross-utilization of staff so that we are training staff to be able to be used in more than one capacity, and making certain that we are building systems within our organization so that our system is not totally dependent on any one individual. So there were some cuts that we made before we presented this budget to the board. There was a request and a need for special education teachers to be increased to 10. We reduced that to 6, and we were able to reduce that by looking at how we could schedule those youngsters and how we could consolidate some services. We are offering a retirement incentive for our teachers, and there are 45 teachers who have indicated they are taking the incentive, and we anticipate we will only need to replace 35 of those teachers again by being creative with some of our scheduling, particularly at the high school, so that we're not operating classes that are below capacity. Utilizing expense reductions accrued from the energy performance contract, which is $1.5 million. There is also a performance contract that reduced some of our expenses by $400,000, and we've conducted an extensive inventory to maximize our ordering process in our schools. So again, these are cuts that were made prior to engaging the board in conversations about the budget. And we show that slide only to let the public know that not everything that was requested made it into the final budget. And the budget process probably goes through at least 3 revisions before it gets to our board, through budget defense rounds, which began at the assistant superintendent's level. There are 2 at that level, and then 1 with me before they are finalized. So the budget committee goals includes the academics, what's in this budget to help meet this goal, the math program, the expansion of global and U.S. history, curriculum writing and revisions at our middle school, professional development. We have looked very carefully at how PD is offered to minimize the number of absences our teachers experience, and of course, that has a direct impact on the number of substitute teachers that we need to bring in. Special ed consultants to look at students with autism and identifying students that we may be able to bring back into our district and offer those programs here. Ready Up Interventions, or Wilson Training, which is a program that's designed to assist students with disabilities. Going deeper into our Tier 1, 2, and 3 RTI program. Quick reads and learning modules that are designed to, again, get youngsters on or above grade level. We're doing a pilot English Language Arts curriculum program to support core academics. Full-day culinary arts program, and this is a direct result of needs and interest expressed by our students, expanding auto body repair and the work-based learning program for our teachers. Mr. Soap, you want to take over here?
Some of the things we've done to help us meet our goals are to hire a senior architect who will help in the coordination of our many projects. We have multiple funding sources, perhaps 100 projects that we'll be looking at, and the senior architect will help us inside as well as helping us with smaller projects that we want to do. We're replacing 2 of our trucks, which are over 20 years old. We are continuing our asbestos abatement program in all the schools. Our pool will open this year. At some point, we've just received permission from the health department to proceed out to bid on the replacement of the filter system. We are replacing bathrooms and electrical and other plumbing upgrades, roofing repair and replacements, and the education center will be evacuated during the summer because we're doing major repairs, and also we're putting in an emergency generator and doing other IT work there. We're doing landscaping throughout the district. We're fixing parking lots. We're doing things that haven't happened in many years. Am I going the wrong way? Yes. Goal 3 of our budget committee was to restore, part of it was to restore middle school sports. We will have volleyball, wrestling, baseball, softball. We're doing major repairs at Mandela School. Today we settled on our program for the summer, which will be to restore a number of bathrooms as well as to renovate the gymnasium. This is a 4-year program to fix Mandela. We are doing beautification projects in 5 schools this coming year. General building repairs also are part of what we're doing. We are working with consulting services for safety partnerships. I already mentioned the schools. We're getting interscholastic sports equipment for the first time in many years to help our program. We're renovating some playgrounds starting right now. We also have a grant for a big playground repair or replacement at Pennington. Our technology program is in several parts. Part of it is from the SMART grant of $7.6 million, but before that happens, we have $8 million in the bond for infrastructure repair. We are getting more technicians, improving our software, improving our student information systems. Part of that will be done during the summer at the Board of Education building, and we'll be working on improving our security systems throughout the district. Technology needs are growing. We don't know what things are going to look like in the future, so we are preparing for whatever the future might bring by bringing in new wiring to all the schools. And our system for software doesn't really work anymore, and we are planning to bring in a whole new software system and run 2 concurrent systems for a year until we're ready. That will help us to stop having to fax teacher attendance reports from one building to another. Technology also needs to be growing. The technology department is being reorganized to meet some of these challenges. We are working with BOCES to have an improved program, provide a better service for us in a more timely fashion, and they are willing and able to help us. And our best thing about BOCES is that we get some 70 to 75% aid on the programs that we have through them. We will have additional technicians. We now have a program for work orders, which is called School Dude, and we also have something ServiceNow, which will be more friendly-based, cloud-based, and will help improve our technology repair timelines. We are hiring a new administrative assistant to help with our day-to-day operations while we work with our technology upgrades. Part of that, you can hardly see it, but several staff members will have their roles shifted, increased, more tightly managed to improve our efficiency. Goal 5 of the budget includes continuing to improve our music program by launching a string program. Last year we brought music back into all the schools that were missing music. We're having an instrumental program. We are having transportation and field trip allowances to get our kids to other places to see special programs, including the Dance Theater of Harlem. That's a partnership we're going to have. And after-school band programs, expansion of all these programs so that they are seamless through all of our school years and kids don't have to come in not having any preparation beforehand. We're adding additional gifted and talented staff and providing them with the appropriate materials and supplies. And middle school of the arts, that will move to Mount Vernon High School. Next year we are currently doing a major renovation of several classrooms to provide a dance program, including a real floor for dancing, for learning to dance. So in terms of our revenue, so it seems to be missing something here. I think that's because it was too small. At any rate, 39% of our budget, it says category name, but 39% of our revenue comes from taxes, 56% comes from, I'm saying it backwards, excuse me. 56% comes from taxes, 39% comes from state aid, 4% comes from other sources of revenue, and 1%, where it says that 1%, that's from our fund balance. So I'll say it again, 39% is state aid, 56% is taxes. And we did have a substantial increase in state aid this year, which is helping us to do this, to do all we're doing without increasing taxes. So where does the money go? 83% of it goes to instruction, and the rest goes to facilities. This is higher than it has been in past years because we are spending more on facilities to try to make up for some of the deficiencies of the past. Some of the things that we can't help. Charter schools, we have some 373 children going to charter schools. Everybody thinks of only one charter school that's in Mount Vernon, but there are actually 9 other charter schools in other communities that we are sending children to. Some 53 children are going to charter schools out of Mount Vernon. We had a small but substantial increase in our health insurance costs. Other things that have increased were workers' comp, Social Security, other benefits, of course. We've done a building condition survey and a 5-year plan to see where we're going with all of the repairs we're doing, and you can see the financial impact of these things. Other things we have to do, we have a new curriculum model aligned with college and career readiness standards, developing an early warning system for at-risk students, creating and implementing an ELA and math assessments, and preparing new and existing teachers and principals to teach and design instruction aligned with the new standards and assessments. So what affects the tax rate? The tax rate is affected by the state aid that we get, by how much of our reserves we have to use, by the assessables, meaning the value of the town, and the way we spend. So we know that our two most important parts of our state aid are called foundation aid and the foundation aid is the biggest part. It's about $68 million of our state aid. There was something called the gap elimination adjustment where the state took some $46 million from us in the last 5 years from the aid we were entitled to. As much as $13 million in a given year. The state has finally stopped doing that, and we are getting $933 million, $1,000 more in the 16-17 year. We're not getting back the money we lost, but at least there's nothing more being taken. And our fund balance, we have, it's only 1% of our revenues. We intend to leave our reserves at the maximum reserves allowable, which is 4% of our budget. And we are applying some restricted reserves to offset some of the costs of things like certiorari's and increases in worker compensation costs, increases in retirement system or projected increases in retirement system costs. The assessables are something we can't control. If there's 8 people that have to pay for a pie, but only 7 people actually pay, the other 7 people have to pay for the whole pie. So depending upon the assessables or what happens to the value or the taxes of a given home. So if homes are foreclosed on, businesses close, taxes on on homes go up. But our taxes that we are assessing, those taxes are the same 134 million as we have for 3 years now. And appropriation, that's our budget. So the taxes are not changed, they're staying the same for the 3rd year in a row. And nobody is doing that. Other places are cutting. We are able to use a combination of increases in state aid and carefully spending and trying to hold our money till the end of the year and not spend it. This shows you the tax levy history, $134 million for next year, this year, and the year before. And you can see that in 13-14, it wasn't really that much different from 14-15. So the tax rates have been very, very stable for the past 4 years, 3 of those years being the same. So here's a summary of our budget. It's 3.41% increase in the budget, no increase in the taxes. You see the budget increase of $7.8 million. And you see the current year's budget and next year's budget. And we are very pleased to be able to do this. So we will take any questions that anybody has this time.
Of the $8 million increase from last year to this year, how much of that is normal progression, like teacher goes from step 11 to step 12, CSEA step 7 to 8, administrators? How much of that of the $8 million is that step increase?
Well, all of our important contracts, virtually all of our contracts are in negotiation now. So so what you're speaking of is if the contract didn't change, who gets what from the steps? And then we also have to allow for something in the contracts. All that is built into the budget. So you're talking about $1 million or more that would just be considered just for the steps in the contract, just for people being there and getting another step. So that's not really saying changing credits, but just being there another year. Then we have to account in some way for what the contractual increases will be. Then we talk about the increases in staff that we needed for special ed and for our English language learners. And then all the repairs. We have over $2 million in this budget for capital projects that are separate from the bond, separate from the energy performance contract, separate from the Excel bond. All $2 million for repairs of the buildings that will not be covered on that, but will be aidable at our same 75.6%, assuming it's in buildings that are occupied by students. So there are so many things that affect the increases. And we have to pay out a large amount for the people who retire. Yes, there'll be a big savings in coming years for the people who have retired, but that cost is also very big.
But I know you don't want to give away how much you've budgeted for administrators, for CSEA, for teachers. But if you combine those, and then the step increases, you can come up with a figure you can make available to the public, whether it be 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, versus new programs, say.
So if you took the total amount of money that's allocated in the budget for payroll, and you looked at last year's budgeted amount and the
current year's budget.
Current year's budgeted amount and the projected budgeted amount from 2016-17, you would be able to figure out what the total pot of that money, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but you would be able to figure the total pot of money that's allocated for salary increases. And you're right, we don't want to negotiate in public and say, well, this particular percentage was used, because then that would be at a disadvantage for the board. But clearly, you could do the math and figure that out.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is, you have an increase for health insurance. Pension costs have gone down as a percentage of payroll, from what I can understand. And then you've got, as I say, these normal step increases, and then what you're budgeting, and versus new programs on the 8 million. That's what I'm trying to get at. I don't seem to be able to get an answer from you guys.
I don't, I'm not sure how to answer that question. We could quantify it. Certainly we could quantify that. What's new?
And again, I'm not saying, you've allocated so much to teachers, so much to CSEA, so much to security, so much to administrators, so much to non-union people. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for a combined number.
You could look at the abbreviated budget that you have in your hand, which lists each major item. And you can see this year, what we spent last year, what we're spending this year, or this year's budget, what we expect to spend, and then next year's budget. You could look at any one item. You would be able to tell our transportation costs from this year to next year, how it changes. Our interscholastic athletics, pension, health insurance. Every single item you can look at, and the changes is listed there, and you would be able to get an idea of that. Having to do with program. You could look at instruction, you could look at special education, you could look at the kindergarten program. You would be able to get an idea from that of the change in the program. But the program is the biggest change. Program and the repairs are the biggest change of all. The salary is substantial, but it does not compare to when you add teachers in, 10 new teachers, you're talking about with benefits over $1 million. So
it's going to be a net decrease in 10 teachers, not from 45 to 35?
Yes, but we also added new staff in other areas in special ed. It's of that narrow area of the 45 teachers that are being replaced with 35, but there's other increases. Increase in attendance teacher. Also I mentioned the English language and special ed, and there are other areas where we have put additional help into some buildings where they need additional staffing or services. There's not a big increase net in those kind of people. We also have to think about what we're going to have in another year when we have many more pre-kindergarten classes as we go to a full-day pre-kindergarten for all the kids who are not even here now. So we have to think about that. We have to also preserve as much as we can for future needs, not trying to touch our savings.
So there's a projected increase in enrollment due to more students in pre-K? Is that what
No.
No?
The enrollment, the staff increases are mandated. For instance, the state is requiring that we add more teachers in to accommodate the ELL students. The state is requiring that we adjust the ratio of students who are eligible for special ed programs, which is why we're adding those additional teachers in. So some of these are mandated additions that are causing, that makes up that $7 million that you're talking about. Some of those costs are actually mandated costs that are beyond our control.
Are they being funded? Is that being funded by the state? These mandates?
Unfortunately, not.
No, none of the mandates are supported by the state. And the pre-kindergarten program is a set dollar figure, and yet it costs us more each year to run that program. We don't know what the 17-18 year will bring when we add some 25 additional pre-kindergarten classes. But we, of course, worry about that.
So the state's not paying for this increase in pre-K like they did for New York City, right?
Not right now. There is some talk about there being an increase in funding for pre-K programs, but there hasn't been a final determination on how that will make its way into Mount Vernon. But there is some talk, and I've had conversations with folks at the state office about why Mount Vernon needs these additional funds, but no determination has been made yet how that pot's going to be divvied up.
We're also hopeful that we're going to get some more grants. We have a grant to redo a whole courtyard area where the playground has been demolished. We have a grant to do Pennington playground fields and bleachers, and we are hopeful of getting something to help with some of our site work to offset some of the costs that are going to be in the bond. We also, as you may know, have $1 million grant to renovate the pool, but there are additional costs beyond that. We also have added some things in the budget this year, such as an insurance examiner, also somebody to help with our youth programs to study how to make this place safer. We are about to hire a transportation consultant to look at our whole transportation program. So those things had to be planned for. Oh, we also have our aquatics director. Assuming the pool gets open soon, the aquatics director will be starting shortly to start forming teams and programs.
All right, I got another question. You mentioned auto mechanics up there. Are any of our students becoming electricians, plumbers, carpenters in the high school? Is that being offered now, or do they have to go to BOCES?
We do not offer that yet. We are gradually adding more and more programs on, but we do have some partnerships with BOCES where we send some youngsters, particularly some of our youngsters from Mandela. And quite frankly, we're trying to bring those youngsters back into the district as well and expanding the programs at Mount Vernon High School. Included in this budget is transportation from Mandela to Mount Vernon High School to make that accommodation, because we could do it cheaper than what BOCES is charging.
Yeah, because when SEPA took over the board in the late 90s, it was no longer offered here. And students didn't want to go to Yonkers or go to some other place in Westchester County. So the number of students going into the trades declined precipitously.
And well, this year we did increase start up again the culinary program, which had been dormant for many years. And it's a vibrant program, and we hope to add additional programs similar to that to expand the career and technical programs. And
it will be based on student interest, because what we don't want to do is add these programs on and operate classes with 6, 7 kids in them simply because we have the programs. So culinary arts, for instance, youngsters have expressed an interest in that. Their counselors are planning their schedules, so we know that we have a need to expand the program. And as youngsters express more interest, we'll add those programs on to the extent that we can.
And for females, like hairdressing, cosmetology, things like that?
Yes, cosmetology has been offered right now. It's actually very, very popular. And the nursing program, we actually have our first graduating class this year. So absolutely, we're expanding those programs. Any other questions?
Thanks for coming out.
Oh, well, I don't know. Have you gotten a preliminary assessment number from the assessor?
The assessor only gave me the $883. I don't know if that's what you mean. It's $883.54 is the assessment for that's the taxes per thousand of assessed valuation. That's all that the assessor would give me. I did speak with the assessor.
I mean, this is...
She says we will not have that number until June.
Yeah, but she can give you a number as of April 1st or April 15th.
She said she would not give
I know
me
she can't give you the final number until June 1st, assuming the budget is passed on the 17th. But I mean, this is a departure from when DeBellis was the assessor. He would always give a number as of April 1st or April 15th. So when you go out to the public, you can say the tax levy is 0%, but based on a preliminary assessment number, there's going to be a tax increase or a tax decrease. So that people have all the information to properly vote on the budget on May 17th.
As you and I discussed, we don't have it. The assessor's office will not give it to us till
Yeah, I called
June
her today. As a matter of fact, I called her a couple of weeks ago, and I'm still waiting for a call. I'll see what I can do.
1st. Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you. This information is on our website if you'd like to view it at your leisure, as well as a copy of the abbreviated budget